You're in the right place at the right time, stretching from the distant spaceports of Batu, Tatooine, and Triton, all the way to the bright center of the galaxy at Imperial Center, slamming into your holoprojector like a supercharged nanoparticle of coaxium. This is the Star Wars Unfiltered podcast. I'm John, he's Jason, and we're here to bring you your needed dose of Star Wars film, TV, book, comic, gaming, and collecting news. The date is January 28th, 2022. I got the date correct this time. And we have a fun topic today. We're going to be talking about the 25th anniversary of the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition, and which itself was the 20th anniversary of Star Wars when it came out. So, as well as everything leading up to that, and all the hoopla and the entertainment, the culture stuff, the early days of the internet, basically all our memories leading up to the special editions and things that were going on around that time in our lives. Should be fun. And how was your last?
It's really fun to have that mental exercise of we're further away from this than this was from that. I hate that.
Yeah, indeed. How was your week, Jason? What'd you do the last few days besides recover from COVID?
Oh, I'm pretty much 100% again.
That's good.
So just been being a dad and playing video games and trying to entertain a 4-year-old going on 5. So
yeah,
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. No kidding. What games have you guys been playing?
A lot of Mario Kart and
OG.
No, come on.
Or the new one.
The new one, come on. Whatever they are, Generation Alpha, because I think it like cycles over. I think she's Gen A or something. They're not going to appreciate, OG Mario Kart at this point.
No, I mean she might a little bit later in life, but
yeah, not that 4. It's
no,
she's not going to care. She's like, this game sucks. But she's really good at it, which is makes Papa proud. She beats her 8-year-old cousin. She's only 4.
Wow, that's impressive.
She's a prodigy.
Yeah,
but
I sucked at games at that age. So
Mario Kart has a lot of handicap stuff for little kids. So you can't drive off the edge and all that stuff. So
no Rainbow Road deaths for little kids.
Yeah, I make sure to turn that off for her cousin, but on for her. So, because that's the kind of dad I am.
yeah.
and the Lego Harry Potter, she likes that too. Which I'm really excited because they finally have a release date for the Skywalker Saga Lego.
That's game. Right. I saw the last couple days. What is the date anyway?
I think it's April 8th. I think
April 8th.
April something. So it's coming up. Hopefully we'll get it and transition over to that. Maybe. I don't know. I actually, I don't want to get into this too much, but I'm now, so she's watched all the Harry Potter movies. So she knows everything goes on, right? There's no surprises. So we're also reading the books, but there's not going to be any surprises. Her cousin is doing it more traditional, where his parents are reading the books and then watching the movies after each book, and everything's going to be a surprise for him. He has spoilers. But I'm really struggling with how I'm going to handle Star Wars because we haven't watched Star Wars yet. And I'm deciding on if I'm going to go chronological or release still. And I'm not saying that to start a discussion on that. But I am leaning.
I'm ready to give my opinion right now, this second.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward release right now, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'll just play devil's advocate and say that if I had a kid, which thank God I don't, crossing fingers here, I would say I always like the idea of chronological, just as a different spin on how things would be perceived as far as like Anakin and Vader and stuff. But it's hard to argue because the revelation of Vader as Luke's father in Empire is so iconic and so classic. It kind of is the ultimate spoiler. So it's kind of like, should that be preserved?
Yeah, it's something. It seems like kind of lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
It's something
yeah.
that's so hard to I mean, you can't re-experience it.
You
So,
know, just to go off on a brief tangent here, I think back to when I was a kid, and even though I did see A New Hope first on television, my first time seeing Empire and Jedi, I think, was in the late 80s, just on VHS, like pretty much back to back at my friend's house. But I don't remember if I knew about Vader being Luke's father, or even if I learned it then, for whatever reason, I don't remember it impacting me
hmm
particularly strong. Like, maybe I already knew, I don't know, but it was something that kind of, I don't know, is a strange thing. It's one of those things where I don't remember what I remembered.
hmm
I have the same problem with the Challenger disaster. I have no memory of when that occurred, yet everyone around me, my age, remembers exactly where they were and stuff. So I don't know.
yeah, same. I remember the aftermath, but I don't remember the event.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I remember the aftermath, but not the day or that kind of detail. So who knows? This might be worthy of delving into on another day, like Star Wars. These kinds of memories and how we come about them over the
Yeah.
years. Um,
Anyway, how was
but
your
yeah,
week?
it's been pretty good. Had a fun day of going up to Santa Barbara for the day, which actually is kind of good because that'll tie into our discussion about the special edition, because that's of course where I saw it for the premiere 25 years ago, and where we've seen at the Arlington Theater every Star Wars movie since then,
hmm
as far as Attack of the Clones and onward for you and I. Um, but yeah, I was in town up there just doing some other stuff, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's every time I go by that theater and see the Arlington, the memories of the special edition days come back, and it was very, even though I had been there years earlier to see Batman and the Last Crusade and stuff, it's still kind of very tied in with my Star Wars memories.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna just dive right into the special edition and everything leading up to it. Um, this also ties into getting on the internet for the first time, because
hmm
you and I both got on AOL right around, for you, I think it was the same as me. It was like late 96, right?
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of people, it was, especially our age, because it all hinged on AOL going unlimited. For me, it was.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah,
I had only been on the internet at somebody else's house
right.
before that,
Hmm.
because I didn't even have a PC myself until a few months before AOL went unlimited.
Right, right. Yeah,
Um,
it was like, that's when everyone was getting computers. It was like the mid 90s. Computers were starting to get just cheap enough and just fast enough also for, more advanced games, as well as the burgeoning internet. So it was like this kind of transition period in technology where it was just becoming more common. I mean, as soon as you start to see it in TV shows and sitcoms, that's when it's like, okay,
right.
everyone's getting a computer now.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I got my
especially
first
with.
PC in, and I had played, on friends and family members' computers and computer games like TIE Fighter at my
Hmm.
cousin Troy's house and stuff
Hmm.
before '96. But I got my first computer. I think it was October of '96,
Hmm.
and first games I got were Duke Nukem and TIE Fighter. I went out
Yep.
to whatever software boutique or whatever the store was at the Orange Mall,
Software,
and
etc.,
it
or
was
electronics boutique,
that's right, yeah, it's Software Etc. and Electronics Boutique. I don't remember
which
which
were
one.
all kind of they all kind of ended up in the same umbrella of software, etc. by the 2000s, and that
Yeah,
also included Egghead Software, which I have fond memories of, because that's where my family got our first Flight Stick Pro and Rebel Assault from Egghead Software.
it's
So.
it's kind of funny to because I got my PC at Computer City,
Hmm.
which was around, and then it just boom, it was not around, and then it was all CompUSA. So then
Yeah,
because then like everybody has memories of CompUSA, nobody has memories
right.
of Computer City,
No, I've
the
heard
chain.
of them, but I don't recall ever going to one.
And it's kind of the same thing with like those mall stores or even um, Egghead Software, because even though there weren't like direct competitors, Newegg sort of because the name is so similar, I think
Yeah.
it occupies that space. It's sort of,
Yes.
and so I think there's kind of the same thing with Computer City
Yeah.
versus CompUSA. But anyway, got that, and then yeah, it was, and because the internet just exploded when AOL went unlimited, and it was just
Yep.
from what I can look up and stuff. It was December 1st, 1996,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
remember, you know, wanting it, getting it, and being just blown away. I'd only like been on the internet at my friend Greg's house earlier in the year, checking out like
Mhm.
Yahoo. You know, it was kind of
Right.
weird to just like, you know, click things and they load up and search for things really rudimentary. But
Yeah,
it was amazing.
uh speaking of the early internet and stuff, my first time even learning about it, I think was in the back pages of my Robotech comics from about 1993. There was little ads for the Robotech BBS because
Hmm.
it was all about BBSs and message boards in those early days, trading files, trading shareware, and just information in to whatever people were interested in. And so I heard about it, and it had to have, of course, like a little capsule explanation of what a BBS is and like what the internet is, and then that's
Yeah.
when you heard the information superhighway
Yeah, those
term. And
the boards and all that stuff, the BBS boards, that all makes me wish I had a computer way before. I wish I
I
could have experienced
know,
that, like
yeah, I know, me
the
too.
super
And then
proto internet.
yes, and then when I started reading Star Wars: Galaxy magazine from issue 1, they always had a section in the back called, I think it was called Cyber Notes, and it was just like where can you go online to talk about this or this. And I think from issue 2 onward, they would have like official Star Wars: Galaxy magazine chats with fans, and then they would just ask him like, what's your favorite alien from the movies, and people would chime in, and they would print those as articles. So you'd see people's their AOL usernames and whatever, and they'd give their answers. And it was just, I remember thinking like, wow, like I so badly want to take part in this
Yeah.
because I was already becoming that hardcore person among my friends, and that was great. But even my good friends only had a certain level of fandom compared to mine.
Yeah.
So I was like way ahead of them as far as like consuming the RPG, the novels, all that stuff. And even though we had comparable levels of interest in some of those things, I was still way beyond them. So it was like you have this hunger to connect with people like you.
Yeah,
So it's
it was
like,
really tough back then to like really geek out on the same
oh
level
man, it
about
was.
something.
It really was. So, and that was why when I first went on AOL, or one of the first times, it was at my friend John Seeley's house. I was there the night he set up with his AOL disc and everything, and that was before it went to the monthly flat fee.
Hmm.
He had it just in it was like minute by minute or hourly, I think, how you would pay. And
I think you got like a 5 hour allotment for 10
yeah,
or 15 or
yeah,
20 bucks a month. And then it was
right.
like, it was probably by minute after that, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, the early days. And then it was only a few weeks later. Well, all this was happening at the same time. My friend Daniel, he got his own computer then. He got AOL. And then even at my parents had split up right around this time, like fall 96. So my dad moved in temporarily with his friend Jay in Oxnard, and Jay had a computer, and I went over there one night, and I remember I stayed up all night till like 5 a.m. And this was like back when monitors were big and powerful. And I remember I didn't have the light on, I don't think. My eyeballs were like watering, and I literally like felt like sick to my stomach
Uh
from
huh.
like the amount of like electricity I had absorbed in my
It's a
eyeballs.
radiation poisoning. You're going to rot
Totally.
your brain.
But I remember being there, staying over at that house that night, and using that was still the minute by minute the way Jay had it set up. And then I remember the first thing I did when I got on was you would look in like keyword, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
So I remember just typing in Star Wars and hoping it would take me to where there's like a forum or something. And back then, this was like, I think, before Lucasfilm set up keyword Star Wars like properly, because you'd put in keyword Star Wars, and maybe you remember this too, it would take you to this forum called Space Wars. like automatically. And Space Wars was where people would hold the simming
Mm-hmm.
kind of things, like with different, it was like the Emperor's Hammer
Yeah.
uh kind of guild, and it was all these fans that would do the simming, which is kind of like RPG light. And they'd have all these rosters and like what kind of ship did they fly, and then they would have their own chat rooms and everything. And even though I never did go that far and get into that stuff, I remember that was my entry point into Star Wars Online, was just like skimming over the Space Wars forums. And that was interesting for a while, but I'm like, where do I find other stuff? Where do I go? So, and then of course there's the chat rooms.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I
um,
remember more
yeah,
strongly. I vaguely remember the Space Wars
yeah, yeah,
um, keyword or section or whatever the heck it was. It's tough because
right.
there's no way to sort of delve into that walled garden of AOL
I
keywords and
know it's
stuff anymore.
gone.
It's
It's
just
just
completely gone.
gone.
Um,
Yeah, there's not really many screenshots out there,
but I remember going
scouring
into
Google.
the chat rooms, the cantina. There was a lot of chat rooms for
I think we
RPers.
met. I think we met in the Star Wars Cantina, was it called? I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just Star Wars Cantina.
That was the main one. And I remember you'd go on AOL, you'd go to chat rooms, and somebody would just have to make this Star Wars Cantina every day.
Yeah,
Because you could just make a chat,
right.
and if it got enough people and enough interest, more people would come in. And I even remember skimming down the chat topics, and at the time, Marilyn Manson was really big,
Yeah.
and I kept seeing his name as like a chat topic. And
Uh
at
huh.
the time, I was thinking, is that the chick from Garbage? Because I was like not making the connection on the
Right.
name.
Right.
So I always remember that. But yeah, the good old Star Wars Cantina. Um, Dude, there was so many good times in that chat room.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm not a big RPer or LARPer or anything like that.
Hmm.
But I did enjoy going into those cantina chat rooms and RPing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, back then when we were teenagers, it was kind of fun because it was new and different.
Yeah, there's definitely a novelty to it.
Yeah.
I guess for generations before ours, it would be what do you call it? The ham radio. Get your ham radio license and
Yeah, I
get
know,
on there and just
right?
talk to people all over the world,
Yep.
on different
Yep.
frequencies and stuff. And um, I don't really remember the actual like meeting you and Jess, and then also
I don't
the
remember
other
specifics
the other
like
Jason
that.
Profane. I don't remember the
Right.
transition to making our own like private chat rooms that we
Right,
always
right.
do.
Exactly. I wish I could say the chat room name here today, but it would be offensive to people, so I'll just leave it at that.
Well, we don't want to give up too many secrets.
Yeah, our chat room will remain in the Imperial archives on Scarif. But yeah, I do remember chatting with Profane, and he was cool enough to like he would join me, you, and Jess, our other friend, and he would take part in those private chats where it'd just be the four of us. And then Profane kind of stopped coming online as much, probably because he was older than us, so he probably had a real job,
Yeah,
and
he had real things going on. Well, he was in
yeah.
that band, and I don't
What was the
recall.
name of this band?
I don't what do you? Oh, who is Jaster Muriel? That's right.
Yes,
I do remember
indeed.
that.
That was the name of his band, which there's still information about them if you look them up on Google. There's some old websites that have like, because he lived in Ohio, just
Yeah,
like Jess.
yeah,
So there was some small touring information of clubs they would play, and he was cool enough to mail each of us a cassette,
yeah.
and we
I
still
still I still have mine.
I got mine. It's a little worn, but and it was actually really good music. And I know last year, the 2 years ago now, almost year and a half, you and I were talking about maybe we should use that music as the intro to the podcast. It was an idea, and then we were like, "Whoa, do we need to reconnect with Jason and
I,
get his
I think we
permission?"
would
And
need to, yes, but
technically,
but that
it
that
was
that bounty hunter song that him and his band did was
yeah,
really good. Like I
it was
think I
good.
think it's still good.
Yeah, yeah. There was definitely like a pop punk kind of vibe to the music, and I remember really enjoying it. I only played it a couple times back then, but I liked it. And yeah, I'm gonna at some point I'm gonna rip those and make some MP3s and do something with them, even if it's just to listen to on my own spare time.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were some good days,
And it's sort of all of it was a lot of the Star Wars stuff anyway was driven by the hype and the all the anticipation of the special editions coming out. Because
yes,
you
it
had
was
this
only
like
a few weeks away at the time.
you had this perfect mix of this new medium for connecting with other people of the same fandom and stuff like
Hmm.
Star Wars at the same like just 2 months before the Star Wars juggernaut was restarting
Yeah,
and wouldn't stop for another, you know, what, 8 years really. It wouldn't
through the
slow
prequels,
down.
pretty much,
Yeah,
because
it wouldn't slow down
this
for
was
another eight
like
years.
yeah, and actually, you could go back even further, like Shadows of the Empire, as almost being because that was the test bed for the marketing for the
Uh-huh.
special edition in a
Yeah.
way. So yeah, this was like the kind of 8 year. This was the next phase of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like there's the different phases. There's the 70s, the 80s, the dark times of the late 80s. The 91 to 96 was its very own insular thing with the Thrawn trilogy and stuff and the Bantam era, West End games. This was the beginning of the next gateway into the next phase of Star Wars, for
Yeah.
sure. And it was
What
exciting times.
what movie did you first see, or even if it wasn't a movie, if it was just on TV, the spot, the trailer for the special
I
editions?
remember, I remember, because getting on AOL at friends' houses in November of '96. The rumor was that it was going to be obviously attached to a Fox movie, but it
Hmm.
could have been anything because like Star Trek First Contact was coming out like right around Thanksgiving. So me and my dad went to go see First Contact, and I even remember the theaters, Edwards Cinema here in Camarillo, where I'm now living, and it had just Edwards had opened just a couple years earlier. It was a big multiplex, and I saw the trailer before Star Trek, and I remember cheering and like putting my arms up and like woo, and like probably my dad, even though he knew I was excited for the special edition, I don't think he really knew how excited I was until he saw me like cheer for a trailer,
Hmm.
you know? And I just remember being so buzzed. And obviously the movie was great. I love First Contact, great movie. But I was mostly buzzing from seeing the special edition trailer because even
That
though I
that's back when you would go see a movie just for the trailer or the
just
trailer.
for the trailer,
Sometimes,
because otherwise we had little really horrible move files. Like we did trade that file of the trailer amongst ourselves, but
hmm,
it was like what, a 5 hour download for like a two
oh
minute
yeah,
trailer.
yeah, and it
It
was
was
tiny
insane.
little thumbnail.
And it was a move, like you could expand it to look bigger, but it looked crappy. So to make it look proper, you had to like minimize it to be really tiny. And I just remember I played that quite a bit, at least like 10 times on my computer. But it didn't compare to seeing it in the theater. So
Yeah,
yeah. What
I
was your movie?
I well, I don't quite remember. I do remember seeing it.
Jingle All the Way?
No,
That was out then too, and I went and saw that and it didn't have the trailer.
that's the thing. I'm almost certain. Oh, no, I know I saw First Contact in
Yeah.
the theater. I don't remember seeing the Star Wars trailer in front of it. Um,
It might have just been chance, I
but
guess.
I do remember later seeing it in front of Mars Attacks, which came out in December.
Ah, that
And I
December,
saw it,
and I saw Mars Attacks also, but I don't remember seeing the trailer with that.
yeah, and that
So
was kind of thing. It was
interesting.
kind of a crapshoot too, like
It
depending on what
was.
theater, what studio made the movie.
Hmm.
But I saw it in front of. I know I saw it in front of Mars Attacks at the Cinedome in Orange,
Yeah,
which is where I subsequently saw the special editions. Is at the
right.
Cinedome. Um, may they rest in peace. They've been torn down and made condos now.
Oh, yeah, I've lost a lot of good theaters too over the years.
Um, but I remember being pretty jazzed seeing that. It's still that trailer holds up really well.
It does. And there's some good people have done some scans of some like 70 millimeter versions that are on YouTube, and the color is a little off on some of it, but it's seeing it, the film grain and everything on that
Mm-hmm.
trailer, it just takes me right back. And also, I'll briefly mention I first heard of the special edition, the concept that it was coming way back in, I think, mid 94.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were announced in late 93 initially, but summer 94, there was I picked up an issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, which was one of my favorite magazines at the time, which I'm sure you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in their bagged, sealed issues, they would have a bonus magazine of I think it was Cinescape. You know, that was their sister magazine that focused on movies. And there was like a kind of an insert thinner version of Cinescape that came with this, and there was a spread talking about Lucas goes back to revamp the original Star Wars in preparation for the prequel trilogy coming in 1997, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when everyone thought the prequels were going to hit. But I still have that article. I still have that magazine. And and that's where I first heard about it. And then there was even a newspaper clipping that I clipped out from that fall that had a little picture of Lucas talking more about the special editions and what he mentioned there was going to be 4 minutes added, and there was going to be a CG Jabba the Hutt for the deleted scene, which I knew about because I had the From Star Wars to Jedi VHS,
Yeah.
which had the clip of the original Jabba the Hutt actor and everything. So and I even remember when I read the novelization of A New Hope, that scene was in there with
Mm-hmm.
Jabba kind of described as a furry kind of creature. And I remember thinking at age 14, I was like, whoa, this was in the original novel. I had no clue, you know, this whole Jabba thing.
Yeah.
So that was another buzz like leading up to it. Was like, what's gonna be in the movie? What are they gonna add? Are they going to put the big scenes in? I remember that was the big rumor,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of hoping, but in the end we only got one big scene, but at least we got something. But anyway, we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, do you remember hearing about the special editions like in print or anything
I don't have any
beforehand?
strong memories of it. I know I was aware, I
Yeah,
must have, seen it in magazines and all that
because
stuff.
you were buying Insider
Uh-huh.
around that then, right? And
Yeah.
did you buy Galaxy magazine as
Um,
much as me? I was a big fan of both.
I have a few issues.
Yeah,
Um, but for me and my normie memory, everything is really muddy. So I don't have a lot
yeah,
of detailed memory
yeah. I
of
gotcha.
a lot of stuff. But um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't remember the first time I heard about it or read about it. Um,
yeah.
I just remember all the hype building up to it.
And that was the thing too. In January, with the movie only being a few weeks away, we started to see the entertainment outlets starting to talk about it more. So I remember watching Entertainment Tonight and E News Daily, and
Hmm.
I loved the E channel back then. You know, Girls Gone Wild, rest in peace, and all that stuff. So I was taping things on VHS, like all these little news segments and clips, and which
It
more is coming to the channel.
that
It
that
will.
was
It will get there.
that was tough for me because I had a real problem with E because, or at least not with E, but the cable company, Cable Vision of Orange, at the
Mm.
time, because they only had E for half the day, and then at night it would switch over to some other crappy channel. I don't remember,
Damn. So
maybe the
for a
Weather
while,
Channel or something.
you didn't get any Girls Gone Wild infomercials like I did for a
No,
while, I
at the
guess.
time I was really bummed out because I wanted to watch Howard Stern's show on E.
Oh yeah, right.
He had the E show,
Yep.
um, but they didn't show it during the day.
Yeah.
So I got some of the entertainment magazine shows,
Yes.
E News Daily and Talk Soup.
Right.
Man,
Yeah, but
I
talk
remember
soup. Yeah.
my Talk Soup was Greg Kinnear.
Oh yeah,
None of
the
that Joel
original.
McHale or
I
the other
remember.
guy in between Joel
I
McHale
remember
and
when Greg Kinnear was on there, and then he went Hollywood, and he was going to be a big time movie star, and
he's
starred in
great anytime.
Sabrina.
Yeah.
with Harrison.
And he was
So
in As Good as It Gets. He was great
that's right.
in As Good as It
That's
Gets
right.
with Jack and Helen Hunt. He's
Right.
I like Greg Kinnear. He's great.
No, he's a good guy. Good guy. Actually, I revisited Sabrina a few years ago because I hadn't seen it since the theater. Because it
Mm-hmm.
kind of was underwhelming when it came out. It didn't do super great, and it was it was a remake of the old Humphrey Bogart movie, and but I saw it in the theater at the time for Harrison more than anything, and revisiting it now. I mean, because it's just a romantic comedy kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a very charming movie. It's all set in the East Coast, and anyway, that's a whole other thing. Go see Sabrina, starring Harrison Ford and Greg Kinnear
and
and Juliette
and
Binoche.
go see As Good as It Gets. That's a really
That's
good one.
right.
He plays a gay neighbor of
Oh yeah,
Jack.
yeah. That's right.
I don't know. I like Greg Kinnear. I don't understand why he didn't become like a rom com powerhouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I
He
know.
fits that. I don't know. This isn't the. We don't need to talk about Greg
It's the
Kinnear.
Greg Kinnear podcast. No, this I'll tell you what this is. This is the mid to late '90s podcast now, which is
He is
fine.
the Thomas Jane / Aaron Eckhart of the '90s. He should have been in the
Yes,
early
yes,
2000s. He occupies that space. He should still. I don't know. I could
yeah.
whatever. Anyway,
We're talking E
anyway. So
News Daily '90s.
there was all that stuff, and
Talk soup. Yep.
um, the soundtrack got re-released too, right before the movie,
Yes, the
which is
special
pretty
edition
big.
soundtrack. They released them kind of staggered, so as each movie came out a month apart, a new soundtrack would come out. And I think you, me, and Jess all were buying them because we used to sync our CDs
Yes.
in the chat room.
Yeah.
So
We're like, okay, we're
yeah,
gonna hit play now,
hit play now. Disc
we could
one.
talk about the music as it was on.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think we would even do. Would we do that with the movies? I don't know if you guys were able to like watch
I
TV.
initially could not do that because when I first met you guys, I was living on Tico Road with my mom, and
Hmm.
our computer was always in the laundry room.
Right.
That was the computer office, was
Uh
the
huh.
laundry room. So I got to smell cat litter and laundry detergent the whole time I was
What a
on.
mix.
Yeah, it was very fun. And but I always remember I had the hamper was right next to me, and my sister's boombox, which had a disc player, would sit right there. And what I used to do initially, this was the first week or two when AOL, because remember it used to really bog down on everybody connecting
Oh
on
yeah, there would be
the
times
dial up.
where we would oh we're getting on around the same time, but
Yeah.
one or the other, or you, me, or Jess, we lag getting on
Oh my gosh, I
because of
remember.
because there was so many
Yeah,
people signing up for the unlimited plan, and
signing up.
AOL
Dude,
had
AOL
trouble adding
surged.
modems.
They were surging right then. And
Hmm.
I distinctly remember because when I first started, the first 2 to 3 weeks, it would roughly be about a 25 to 30 minute time on busy signal hearing
Hmm.
it. So what I used to do is I'd have the boombox next to me and I would pop in the CD of 2112 by Rush, and usually
So
near
fitting.
the end, yes, usually near the end of the 20-minute title track, I would connect,
Yeah.
usually. Sometimes a little further, but that was my way of processing the weight and just kind of like, oh, I need to occupy my brain, in some way. So, but yeah, then we would sync our soundtracks, and those
What a
those special
relic.
edition, oh, they were so good. And you know what? Star Wars music fans still talk about how good those packaging
Um,
releases were.
well,
Like they were the gold
they
standard for.
spoiled us
They did.
with those releases because usually you would buy, even now usually you buy a soundtrack, and it's not the full unedited soundtrack
No,
from the
it's like
movie.
usually one disc,
It's one
60 minutes,
disc, it's got
70.
snippets, or it's got like concert suite versions
Yeah,
of stuff from the movie, but it
yeah,
wasn't like you're sitting down and just listening to the movie's
yeah.
soundtrack in
Even
whole.
even Return of the Jedi got kind of crappy when it came out in '83 because it was a single vinyl release, so it was only
Hmm.
45 minutes of music, whereas at least A New Hope and Empire were double LP sets, so they had a pretty good amount of music. But even those, being about 80-85 minutes each, could not hold the entirety of the music from those movies. So
Yeah.
when these came out, it was great. You and I were both pretty familiar with the 4 CD anthology box set that had come
Yes.
out a few years
I think
earlier.
it came out in '93. It was that
93.
that old
Yeah,
school. It was a long box with the old
long
school
box.
poster art on it with Luke holding a
Yep.
lightsaber up, and I still
Yeah.
have that somewhere.
I still have mine. In fact, I reread the insert like a few years ago, and it was just very nostalgic to revisit that. I first heard that at my friend Michael's house because he had it, so I would borrow his, and then I would record it onto cassette and then give it back to him. And I got my copy. I think Christmas '95 is when I got mine, and that was a great set. But even that could not contain everything because it was like one movie per disc and then the fourth bonus disc of different outtakes
Yeah.
and such. So,
Yeah.
but
And
it's funny because even with the special editions, there's still things in that weren't in the later releases,
right,
like
right. Well,
Lofty
that's
Neck.
um that that box set, the special edition box set in particular, really spoiled us because I think we did get something similar for the Phantom Menace in
The Ultimate Edition
yeah, and then that
in
was it,
2000.
right? We didn't get one
It,
for Attack of the Clones, did
there
we?
was not. There
Yeah,
was
and I
not.
know
There was
there's not for Revenge of the Sith has got like
uh,
probably one of the worst soundtrack releases of all time for a Star Wars movie.
Well, Revenge of the Sith at least had that bonus DVD that had the Ian McDiarmid kind of introducing the different visual kind of, not really music videos, but they were like different like montages of the
Yeah.
movies set to the music.
You
Those
know,
were cool, but
I
it
suppose
was
at this
different.
point what you could do is just take the Blu-ray or the DVD or whatever and then just rip the music track off of it.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
Why the
And in
hell haven't I
fact,
done that?
I'm
I just
I
thought of
think
that.
oh yeah. There has been people that have done that, and then I've seen torrents of stuff. Yes, I use torrents. Here and there. It's only to back up what I own though.
Right.
And basically, yeah, there's people that have done that. And even in the late 2000s, there was people ripping the various prequel era video games like the Phantom Menace adventure game, Racer,
Hmm.
and some of the Attack of the Clones games had music that was from the movie in them, but not on the soundtrack.
Right.
So that was a thing.
So for each of the special editions, what memories do you have of like the theater you went to and that
You know
day?
what? Let me preface this by saying before the actual release date of A New Hope on January 31st, me and my dad went to the premiere, like the quote unquote Hollywood premiere of the movie where all the celebrities went
Hmm.
to. That was January 18th because usually they hold those, a week or two in advance
Yeah.
because they want to get all the press shots and footage and interviews they can prior to the release. And me and my dad went to that. I remember I didn't sleep the night before because I was literally buzzing with excitement,
Hmm.
and probably my hours were messed up anyway because I was a night owl. But because yeah, I was just so excited. So I remember being up early in the morning at 6 or 7 a.m. when we drove into Westwood, and we were standing across the street from the premiere. And even on our side of the street, there was people lined up there with a barricade and everything.
Hmm.
And then they still had to have the cars go through and the police and the limousines and everything. And as celebrities got out, they would go up to a little stage where Rita Wild from KLOS was there, and she would announce to the crowd, David Schwimmer is here. And then the crowd would go, "Woo," and she would talk to David Schwimmer, and he was all geeked out because he was a big Star Wars fan. I remember that. I think Matthew Perry. It was a lot of TV stars. There was Magic Johnson.
Hmm.
Spielberg was there, and I was taking pictures with my little handheld Polaroid across the street. And I don't know if I mailed. Did I ever mail you pictures of that? I know I gave some to
I
Jess
don't think you
back in the
mailed
day.
me any.
Okay. Jess had some, and I still do have those photos here and there. They might be in the filed away with the celebration stuff, but it was just so exciting to be like in the presence of like Lucas when he showed up. And even though he's across the street and I can barely see him, it was just like it was such a buzz. And
Hmm.
it was a great memory, great day. It was
Yeah, I remember
I don't
being
know, just
jealous.
yeah, it was crazy. It was kind of a prelude to like the celebration trips that we later went to because it was the first time I had kind of experienced a Star Wars fan thing in a physical space with like other like-minded fans. So
Right, right.
that was exciting. That was the 18th, and then leading up to it, on the AOL boards, there was people uh talking about that they had been to sneak previews because I guess
Mm,
in December Fox was already doing sneak previews because they were doing audience testing and audience reaction to I guess some of the new scenes and such.
yeah.
So I remember going on the AOL boards, and there was two people in particular. I even remember their AOL handles. One was Laser Rider, and the other one was Mercerton. And Mercerton was very jaded, and he was like, "These are just a cash grab, and wait till you see what they did with Greedo."
Mm,
So he was all negative and everything. This is like a prelude to Star Wars fandom for everything later.
mm-hmm.
And the Laser Rider was very defensive for Lucasfilm, saying, "No, this is great. There's going to be a whole new generation of people seeing this. Don't focus on the little things. It's all about the big picture." And I just remember their debates on the boards over and over because Mercerton had gone to the sneak preview, so he was all poo-pooing certain things.
Yeah, yeah.
And anyway, so when the date came, uh, I remember the night before, um, my mom had picked me up on her way home from work or whatever. I guess I had been asking for it for a while. She got me the radio dramas on
Mm.
cassette. And I guess I probably would have preferred it on CD, but the thing is, a cassette box set was probably $20 cheaper than the CD box
Oh, at
set
least.
version.
Yeah, back then at
Because the
least.
CD box set, if you went to Barnes and Noble, it was like $60 or 70, I think.
Yeah.
So I was just
And
like, "Hey mom, just
that's
get it on cassette."
$1997.
Yeah,
That's not
exactly.
$2022.
Yeah, yeah. And I was happy to have it on cassette anyway because I still have my Walkman and boombox and whatever. So I remember she got me that set the night before, and I remember my hours were super messed up because you and I and Jess would stay up late chatting in our chat room and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but I remember the sun coming up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play the first couple episodes of the radio drama because it leads into A New Hope." And so I listened to those for the first time. I did end up going to sleep after the sun came up and falling asleep to the radio drama. This was like 7, 8 a.m., maybe 9 a.m. actually. So I woke up late that day in the afternoon. And this was in late January. So it's like, it was still kind of like getting dark around 5 p.m. or whatever. And I remember thinking, like, oh crap, like I have to go with my mom. Like, we got to go see the movie, like, because we hadn't gotten our ticket or anything.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see it, of course, at the Arlington in Santa Barbara. So as soon as I woke up around probably 3 o'clock or something, we headed into Santa Barbara, just me and my mom, which I remember wanting to see it with my whole family, but again, with my parents having split up just a few months prior, and like it was just kind of like a weird thing. So I would often go see movies with my mom and then maybe with my dad like later.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my mom went. I remember we got into town. We saw a line wrapping around the corner, and I got a little worried. And I was like, "No, this is my nightmare. I'm not gonna get like the second row seat that I want."
Right.
Little did I know how easy it is at the Arlington, as you and I have seen
Oh, yeah.
over the years. It's like no big deal. So we got in line, saw the movie. It's weird. I remember some of the trailers even. Of course, a lot of these we would because you and I we'd go see the movie multiple times, so some of the trailers were repeated. But I remember Warriors of Virtue was a trailer. It was a really crappy
I have
kids kind of
no
action movie.
recollection of that movie.
If you get a chance, look up Warriors of Virtue. It's terrible. And I remember, I even remember some guy when the trailer ended. I heard a guy in the back of the theater go rental. So that was funny. I remember seeing the trailer for The Saint
Oh,
with
yeah,
Val
with
Kilmer.
Val. Yeah, that was a good
Yep,
movie.
yep. I still never seen the movie, but I
Oh, it's pretty
remember that
good.
trailer.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I've now that it's been 25 years, I need to see it. Um, I think I saw the trailer for Dante's Peak because it was coming out right around then.
Yeah,
Um,
that's when the studios would release similar movies to each other because
yeah,
you had Dante's Peak and
and
Volcano.
then Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones. I saw the trailer for Vegas Vacation with Chevy Chase,
Uh huh.
which I still have never seen that one
I
either.
haven't seen it either.
That one, but that by that time the vacation movies were like fizzling out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
because European Vacation even isn't that great either. So,
Oh no,
anyway,
that's great. Oh, okay, yeah. No,
it's
I mean that's
okay.
fine. It's not
It's not the OG though.
right. It doesn't have the charm, but it's still really funny.
No, it's good. It's good. It's just a little. Um, and then there was the trailer for. I think this is in front of all the Fox movies because it was Fox. Inventing the Abbotts with
Mm.
Jennifer Connelly,
Mm-hmm.
Billy Crudup, and a few other people. It's a pretty good movie. And then of course the Empire Strikes Back special edition trailer
Right.
because that they had to show that. And then likewise when you saw Empire, you'd see the Jedi special edition
Yeah.
trailer, and that was exciting because like whoa, it changed the Wampa scene. You see a glimpse of the new Wampa.
Mm-hmm.
um I'm trying that specifically that trailer, that is the best Empire trailer that's ever come out, and probably maybe the best Star Wars trailer of all
Yeah.
time is
Yeah.
that one. But anyway, uh other than that, I was gonna say most of the movie was a blur, but one of my very vivid memories was when Luke says, I was going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. There was literally two guys in the back of the theater that just went woohoo at that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like
I love.
I will never forget that moment. And so it's one of those things now where every time I see that scene, I think of those two guys just cheering for that
I
line.
love
So,
fan reactions. I love people. There's there's that Seinfeld episode about it, right? Where George, he has that joke or whatever that he wants to say, like
oh
when he's at the
yes,
movies,
yes,
because that's like a
yes,
thing, right? Like
it
there
is
are memorable times where somebody has said something, at the screen or about something in the movie where it's been really
right.
funny and good. The
Yeah,
timing's really good. Um, I don't recall it ever having been annoying, other than like people with their phones or something like that. But
right.
I do like that. I don't think that's as big a thing anymore.
Yeah, I
Maybe
know, right?
I haven't heard anybody react to the movie. There's like cheering
Yeah,
and clapping and stuff, but like a joke.
right.
It's like a relic from a bygone era of going
Yeah,
to the movies
definitely.
and stuff.
So,
Um,
so what theater did you see it at again? It was the
so I
Cinedome.
yeah, so I saw all three at the Cinedome, which was Century Theaters had this gimmick of having domed theaters. I think they still have some somewhere in
Hmm.
California or whatever. Um, they had two big domes, and then they expanded out later. But I remember seeing it at the Cinedome, all three movies, and I remember going to the theater like a week before each movie and buying my tickets.
Hmm.
Um, A New Hope I saw by myself. I actually skipped school. It
Nice.
was because I don't recall they didn't have. I don't think they had like a midnight showing. It was just
I don't think they did
when
for
the
these.
theater opened. So it was like a 10 or 11 o'clock show. I
Yeah,
remember going
yeah.
the week before, and I was like such an idiot. I bought two tickets because in my mind I was like, yes, I want to frame these tickets, but I want to frame un unripped
An
tickets.
unripped one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I bought two tickets, and then like as an adult, there's like two things. One, I'm like, well, I may have fucked someone over that wanted to go see that show. For one,
Yeah.
by buying the extra ticket, and two is like, I'd rather frame the ripped tickets, you know.
I know, right?
But I like so obsessed with like things being pristine and all that stuff.
Yeah. Like your
Um,
Star Wars novels that look like
I
they're unread.
I know, yeah. The way I open a book, I like furl the pages so I don't bend the spine. So my
I
spines are
remember
all.
when I first came over to your house and saw your Bantam novels, I was like, "Did you read these or not?" Because they were just like
Yeah,
totally
I
like
still do that.
pristine.
I like a clean spine. I don't like the spine to
Yeah,
be all
yeah.
jacked up.
It's not like
Um,
my Tales from the Mos Eisley
oh,
Cantina
dude,
that looks like it was gang raped by a bunch of fucking Jawas or something.
yeah. Um, So I remember skipping school. I think it was like even midterms or something,
Hmm.
if or something. There was like some midterm tests or something.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember, but I remember just being at the bike racks. My friends were like, "So you're really leaving?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go see the movie." And I was like, just pieced out. I just got on my bike and rode off to the
Yeah.
Cinedome.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but I saw it alone. The other two I saw with my dad at the Cinedome. He took
Yeah.
me to go see those.
Yeah.
So that was cool because that was around the time I was like reconnecting with my dad. Because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
parents had divorced when I was a baby, like probably 1 years old or less.
That
Um,
early. Yeah. Dang.
yes, and because I was primarily raised by my grandparents and my mom, and
Right.
that was around the time I was reconnecting with my dad. He like got all of his shit together, so that was really cool um, for that to the you know for him to be a part of that, and for that
Hmm.
to be a part of reconnecting with him. Um,
Absolutely.
and now even now we have a great relationship.
Hmm.
So one of the things that sticks out in my mind about seeing those movies in the theater for the first time, and it really goes back to what they say in the trailer. Like if you haven't seen them on the big screen, you haven't seen them at all.
Right.
There was like we didn't know what the changes were going to be. Like nowadays,
We had a few ideas from like Insider because there would be like some
right.
images here and
There
there,
was the big
but not
things.
everything.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
the big things, but then there was a lot of little things, a lot of little changes, a lot of little tweaks. And nowadays you
Oh
can go on and
yes.
somebody's like documented everything, right?
Every single thing,
And
whether audio or visual.
right. Back then you didn't know. So I remember distinctly sitting in the theater for Empire Strikes Back and there's the scene and this is after A New Hope where there was a lot of little things inserted and stuff.
Yes.
And
Close the blast doors. Close
right,
the. And there's like, what? Why did that stormtrooper say that? Did they
right.
add that?
Yeah.
That was one of those. Or yeah, open the
Um
blast doors and close them.
uh so in Empire Strikes Back when Han's looking for Luke and
Hmm.
he's like looking at the tracker in the snow. There's like a
Yeah.
little quick shot of him doing that, and then it wipes off
Yeah.
to something else. And I remember in the theater, I was like, "Whoa, that's new. I haven't seen that before." And then I remember going home later and watching my VHS copies of the THX
Uh huh.
editions, and that fucking scene's right there. And that's when I realized that there is a huge difference. And I don't know that people appreciate this, especially nowadays. There is a huge difference between watching something at home and watching it on the theater.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
something that nobody talks about because there's talks about like presentation and the size of the screen
And
and the
it's kind of
atmosphere.
subtle things. A lot of it is audio because the sound is bouncing around inside of a large hall, also.
Hmm.
And obviously, THX was a big part of that as far as feeling the bass and the subwoofers and stuff. But like, there's something about the way the movie sound is reverberating through a large hall versus in your home where it's
Yeah,
a kind of a more controlled environment, you
but
know?
my main point is that when you're in a theater, your attention is solely on the movie.
Yes.
You're not
Yes.
distracted by your
And it's
phone.
dark. It's
You're not
dark
distracted
otherwise.
by
So,
other people in the house, noises, lights,
yeah.
anything like that. A small
Yep.
screen. Like when you're in the theater, your attention is focused. Assuming you don't have to pee
Absolutely.
or you don't, somebody's not going woohoo. Um,
And you've specifically mentioned to me over the years that your big thing when you're at home was to put a movie on in the background and just kind of casually watch stuff while you're at the computer.
yeah. So
So
there is a
there you go.
lot of movies that I know way more about than I should. You posted about Selma Hayek on Facebook recently, and it had that list of movies, and then one of the movies was Fools Rush In.
Hmm.
I know that I never
Matthew
sat
Perry.
down and watched that movie. Yeah, with her and Matt Perry, and I put I'd comment, oh, it's got that Star Wars joke with Chewie and stuff,
Hmm.
and Matt Perry makes a joke in the movie. I know that I never sat down and watched that movie, but I know that I had it on in the background a lot on like
Yeah.
cable or whatever. So there's a
Yep.
lot of movies where I've absorbed, um, you know, casually absorbed them without actually watching
Yes.
them. Um,
Yes.
it's not good or bad. I mean, it's just it's Fools Rush In. Who really cares? I don't need to dissect that movie, but
Right, but
um,
I could see if you did that often with like say The Empire Strikes Back, I could see why there'd be a scene kind of a throwaway scene that's not important, like Han looking at the scanner.
Right.
I could see like somebody suddenly, because it's on a big screen and your focus is suddenly on it. There
Yeah.
was a lot of scenes like that people said this was added, right? And then people would have to correct them, go,
Right.
no, it was always there.
And you know, part of it is like you're looking for it, right? You're anything
Yeah.
that you're like, I don't really remember that because it's not that memorable.
But then on
You're
top
gonna
of
latch
that,
onto.
also, like we said, there was those subtle differences sometimes with the audio. And I remember in Empire, there was the ones where I think you hear when Han finds Luke and he's about to put him inside the Tauntaun, and Luke says like Ben Dagobah. You hear him say it a couple more
Mm-hmm.
times than he did in the original
Yeah.
cut
Yeah.
because Ben Burt just had extra audio tracks that he just put back in. And then even when R2 gets spit out of the swamp monster out of the lake on Dagobah, Luke says something like, "Oh, you were lucky to get out of there." Instead, and whereas the other line on the VHS was like, "You're lucky you don't taste very good."
Mm-hmm.
So that got changed, and it was it's so subtle though, but you're like, wait a second,
So weird. Some of the
am I
changes are so
hallucinating?
weird.
Yeah, they're really weird, and so it wasn't some of those I didn't get confirmed until I went online and onto the AOL boards, and then
Yeah.
people said, "Yeah, these were the
It's
changes."
very weird. I prefer Vader saying, "Bring my shuttle,"
A
to
lot of people did, a
alert my
lot
Star
because
Destroyer.
that was the thing though, and I think they I don't know if I think it was just inferred from fans. I don't think I read any official thing on it, but I think it was obvious that because they had inserted the Lambda shuttle scenes into Empire, they they were kind of thinking, well, if Vader said bring my shuttle and then literally the next shot is him walking to it,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, wow, that was fast. Like it landed like that second, you know?
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
guess that's true.
It's
It's
amazing.
something we didn't think about as fans, but
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
probably ate Lucas up alive for like 20 years.
Apparently, it ate him up, but then he didn't okay, I'll tell you one thing I thought they were gonna change. I mean, there's a lot, but
Yeah.
one thing I thought for sure that looked just kinda okay, but it was like, "Oh, they gotta change this," was when the Falcon exits hyperspace at the Alderaan system, and then there's the asteroids. Those always looked crappy
Mm-hmm.
compared to the asteroids in The Empire Strikes Back. So my thinking was that they were going to make them look like they do in Empire, even
Yeah.
if you only see them for a few seconds. They would have some better quality. And when I saw that it was just the originals, I remember thinking like, "What? They really didn't change that?" But then
Yeah.
Lucas wanted to add a Ronto and a swoop bike into Mos Eisley and all these other things, but not just some CG asteroids. I don't know. It was really he really picked and chose like just random
You know,
kind of
this
stuff.
there's
I felt.
obviously there's stuff that bugged the hell out of him and other stuff he just it didn't. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
apparently he wanted Vader to have that white lightsaber as Luke shoots the door and it
Oh
shuts on
geez,
him.
yeah.
And
The lightsaber color is a real issue.
actually, that's been an issue even through the Blu-rays
Oh
and
yeah, it's
whatever.
always been an
The
issue. I
tint.
don't understand. I do not understand. Um,
Yeah, Luke's saber has always had a greenish tint in A New Hope
mhm.
on the Falcon.
Um,
Anyway,
so yeah, and you know, obviously there was. I think I still have a sheet of paper too, where because we would go and see all of those special editions multiple times. I
oh
remember,
yeah,
you know, having my dragging my grandfather to see it. Anybody that you know I had an excuse to see him with, I'd go see it, or I'd go see it by myself, or whatever. And I think I still have a sheet of paper that has the count. You know, how many
I
times I
have
saw A New
mine.
Hope, how many times I saw ESB and
I
ROTJ.
have mine right here in front of me because I have a text
Mm,
file.
yeah,
I saw now A New Hope. I did see the original version for a 1990 charity screening, so that doesn't count. I'm talking about the special edition.
yeah.
I saw the special edition of A New Hope 4 times. I saw Empire 4 times, and I saw Return of the Jedi only 2 times.
Mm,
So, and some of those were at bargain theaters. So
yeah,
and back then theater movies would run longer than these days, sometimes up
yeah,
to 6 months. I was seeing A New Hope as late as I think April or
yeah,
even I know Empire I was seeing in May
yeah.
with like Daniel and my mom and stuff. So, yeah.
That was a lot of
Um
fun. Um, are there any other particular memories that you have around that time?
Uh, yeah, there was, a few of the movie scenes that kind of stuck out. Because there's been so much debate over the years, like what would you keep from the special editions and what would you take away if as
Mm-hmm.
a fan? Like everyone has their favorites or whatever. And by and large, I enjoyed probably the vast majority of the changes, especially to A New Hope, because that was the one that was kind of long in the tooth as far as the effects. Like Empire and Jedi have always held up pretty well, but I think the space battles in A New Hope, especially the Battle of Yavin,
Mm-hmm.
they did need that kind of upgrade to
Oh,
a lot of
big
shots.
time.
Yeah, big time. And so that was fine. In But where things were kind of weird, I would say, is well, after Vader reveals his parentage to Luke in The Empire Strikes Back, and Luke willingly jumps off of the gantry in Cloud City, he has a certain yell. Normally in the past there was always silence. There was nothing because Luke willingly jumped.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't need to yell out in fear or anything. Suddenly there's this yell, and I
So
didn't
that
think
was in the
anything.
theater version.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah. It
I
was in
couldn't
the
remember
theater.
if that was added into the DVDs or not because there was, of course, there
No,
was subsequent changes in the DVD
the
releases and stuff.
2004 DVD versions took away
Right,
the
right.
sound. It's only the special edition and the VHS
Mm-hmm.
of the special edition. So it's only that version, which is why what I was saying, like, I think a few months ago, those versions are kind of lost as far as digitally. That's why it's important to kind of like convert these if you see them, like whether for your own, because I'm all about preserving all the different versions on my external drives.
Yeah.
So I try and have each one, but I need a good VHS rip or Laserdisc rip of the special editions. So anyway, when I heard the yell, I didn't think anything of it other than, oh, wow, they added Luke yelling out of
I
fear
reckon
or
I remember I don't remember it in the theater version, like that's muddied in my
yeah,
head, but I remember the
yeah.
first time I heard that as far as recognizing where it came from.
Well, and I didn't though. That's the thing. I heard it and I was just thinking, okay, Luke is yelling. But then I think it was the next day when you and I and Jess were talking in the chat room. We were all talking about a reaction to seeing Empire in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you mentioned like you probably said like you know what that sound was, right? And I was like thinking like, no, I don't know. What do you mean? And then you told me it's the Emperor from Return of the Jedi. It's the same yell. And it suddenly was like a light bulb moment. We're like, oh my God, they used that audio. They did.
Yeah.
It's the fucking Emperor. And then I couldn't unhear it after that,
Right.
watching it on VHS through the next few years. And
Well,
it's the
little
weirdest change.
little did we know Lucas was going down. His original intent was for Luke and Palpatine to be a dryad. I think that's where
Yeah, I could see that.
Abrams picked up that story thread and carried it forward to Rey and
Right,
Ben.
right.
You didn't think that was funny? That joke?
That was really dry.
Yeah. um, it's funny though now that potentially that could be if if that audio persisted, if that's like Lucas just dug his heels in and said, "No, that's it." It's funny to think that that could be the retcon now. At
Well,
post
I'll tell you what.
Rise of Skywalker, that Luke and Palpatine were a dryad that just.
I'll tell you what. I will take Luke yelling with the voice of the Emperor in Empire way over a CG rock in front of R2 or the Vader saying no as he
uh
throws the Emperor. I
yeah,
do
I mean
not
that's
like those. The
that
Rock is really the worst. The Rock is the worst Star Wars change that has ever happened because it looks awful. It looks like really
you think that that's
bad,
worse than Greedo
low
shooting
grade
first?
CG. Oh, I will take Greedo shooting first. 20. We haven't even talked about Greedo. It's funny.
Well,
Here we are.
yeah, but
Special
you know what?
edition
That's
25
not
years
within the
later.
scope because I mean that horse is
That's
beaten.
beat. It's a bloody pulp.
It's not even bloody. It's dust at this
It's
point.
dust.
I mean, it's gotten so full
uh
circle that Lucas, there's those pictures of Lucas on the
oh,
set with that shirt that says Greedo shot for or Han shot
Right.
first.
Actually, believe it or not, this ties back into my message board memories from the AOL days. When that one guy Mercerton was talking about going to the sneak preview of the special edition in December '96, he was insinuating that the Greedo version that was released on the 31st of January was actually a slightly different edit, he insists, and I don't know how accurate that is, of the one that he saw at the sneak preview, that possibly there was small tweaks to the Greedo
Oh,
scene even that late.
you know what? In light of all the changes and all the tweaks that have happened over the years, and that's just from
McClunky.
McClunky. Yeah. Um, I 100% could believe that because
I do
there
too.
have been so
I do
many
too.
tweaks and changes just from home release to home release that
Every version since '97 has had a new version of the Greedo scene.
yes,
From the DVD in
his
2004, the
Han's head
2011 Blu-ray.
moving, right? Like he
Oh,
moves.
and that was the original. The special edition had Han's head giving that awkward move,
Uh-huh.
and that was the most awful. That was so awful. And I remember when the blue or the DVD came out, they took that away, and I don't think they had his head move at all. It was just Greedo shooting.
Hmm.
I was like, finally, there's a version I can accept. That's okay. It was the awkward head move that just killed it for me on
Yeah.
the original. So
Um,
anyway, Greedo.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's outside the scope of the special editions from the theater, but I actually can take or leave. I am completely ambivalent to Vader saying no. Um,
Hmm.
because I can see both sides of it. Like I
Yeah.
have, it's weird. Of all the changes, that's one that like I really am just completely neutral on because on
Yeah.
the one hand, I totally can understand the emotional impact of him not saying anything and just
Yeah.
silently
Yeah.
grabbing the emperor. On the other hand, I totally understand the symmetry with um, of everyone saying no, right? Like that's a
Yes.
trope in
Yeah.
Star Wars.
It is. It
So
is.
anyway, so
We'll cover the Blu-rays for their
oh yeah,
anniversary.
no, no thanks. Um,
But isn't it crazy though? Now the special edition is now 25 years old in just a few days here,
it's
and
like I said, it's hard getting to the point where you're saying we're farther away now than from that than that was from this. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
weird. It's a weird feeling.
it is.
Um, so is that it for the movies? You
I think I
reckon?
covered everything I was gonna say.
Yeah. Um, so aside from the movies, going back to AOL, because
Hmm.
obviously there was um, a lot of discussion, um, a lot of fevered discussion about the special editions and the changes and all that stuff. But in our little corner of the internet, in our secret AOL chat room and stuff,
Hmm.
I just remember. I mean, we didn't really have. We were just so thankful to have this experience. There wasn't a
Yes.
lot of arguing or shitting on any of the changes. It was kind of like, well, it's it may not be my cup of tea, but man, we're lucky to have
Oh,
this.
you know me. I'm a shill. I'm just a Star Wars fucking shill, whether it's Disney or Lucasfilm, whatever. I just want more, more, more. Just give me more. It doesn't matter. I could criticize it later, perhaps, but I've always just the cup has always been half full for me.
Yeah,
So
and for the most part, for me too. Although I am a little bit more jaded toward the Disney
yeah,
Star Wars stuff, but
yes,
that's neither here nor there.
right.
Um, what what you have any memories about the chat rooms in particular, or our chats? I mean, we have, interestingly enough, we have sort of archival copies
We
of
have a lot of
some of
logs
our
because
chat
yeah,
logs. Yeah.
and I had to do all that manually because I used to save those a lot for all of us, and then I would give you guys copies. But
Hmm.
I used to do that manually where I'd scroll up and then cut and paste and then just drag it down. And in some cases, I would copy and paste the same section, so I'd have to go back and kind of edit and snip things together. But I did all that manually, and then I'd save it on floppy disks, and those floppy disks eventually ended up in a box. And then it was only about 5 or 6 years ago that I got a USB floppy disk drive, and
Yeah.
I finally grabbed as many files as I could and offloaded them onto my external drive. And I was glad to finally do that to preserve them in a couple different spots, like more securely. Unfortunately, a lot of those discs did get damaged to where they couldn't be read,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of like whatever. But yeah, in the chat rooms we used to do the Star Wars or the sound effects, just waves. You know, we would do the
Yeah.
little bracket and an S,
Yeah, the sort of
and
squiggly, it was a squiggly bracket, the left-hand one, and an S, and that was the chat command for playing a
yes,
sound. And I think it would play sounds out of the downloads folder
yeah,
and out
yeah.
of, I think there was an audio folder, or maybe it was just in the root AOL folder. These are
I think
things that,
AOL, because we were changing our buddy list sounds too.
yes.
We had Blaster. Remember that was an IM? It
Oh
was
my
the
gosh.
like
So,
Hans Blaster.
dude, I remember one time I had Return of the Jedi, the THX VHS playing in the background, and it was
I think I remember this
the
story.
battle on Jabba's barge,
It's like
and
lots of blasters. That
and
sound.
it was that particular blaster sound. It was going off like crazy because there was a blaster,
Yeah,
the battle
yeah.
on the barge, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting IMs. I'm getting IMs. I was like, I'm not getting IMs. What's going on? I was so confused as to what was
Yeah.
going on. It was like weird PTSD
It's like
flashbacks.
pigeon response, like
Yeah,
to
exactly. I got
sounds.
Pavlovian response. Start drooling over a IM.
I remember Daniel putting Warcraft 2 sounds into his
Mm,
buddy list and
yeah,
stuff, or even when he'd log on to AOL. So he would log on, and instead of saying welcome, it would say ready, like the
yeah.
orc or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
that's
recall
good.
that.
I
Yeah.
still have copies of our sounds that we would use because
Yeah.
we'd use Star Wars sounds. There'd be R2 and 3PO. I think later when Attack of the Clones came out, I always liked using um, Mace saying "This party's over"
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Django saying "Always a pleasure to meet a Jedi."
Yep.
And I
Yep.
have the audio, and I remember getting that audio from the TV spots
Yeah,
because
because he
they,
had the quick time, right?
yeah, and they were they sound different than in the movie because it's like
Yes.
isolated and kind
Yeah.
of there's a reverb on it, so they
Yeah.
sound really unique.
Right.
But yeah, you just dump. Yeah, yeah, if I remember correctly, you dump it into the root of the AOL or the downloads folder, and you run that command, and then anybody else that had a sound with the same file name, it would play
Hmm.
automatically. So we would trade sounds
We
back and
had it
forth.
all.
Yeah, we had a
We had like
bunch,
30 waves
and
at
so
least.
we would punctuate our chat with these sounds, kind of like they do on the radio with drops. Like Howard
Yep.
Stern
Yep.
would do this. Fred on the Howard Stern show
Absolutely.
playing drops and stuff for comedic effect, and we would do the same
It's
thing.
it's funny too because there were between you, me, and Jess, there was so much teenage angst back in those conversations and stuff at certain times.
Oh yeah,
We were all just like so naive and so angsty, and
it's
it's
really cringy
it's so cringy looking
to
back
look
at
back.
emails that I sent you guys or vice versa. And mostly I feel that way about myself. You guys aren't so bad, but like,
Oh, that's always the
like
way. I mean,
I'm never talking to you guys again. And then like 2 days later, I'm talking to you
yeah, I
guys
know
again.
that's the funniest thing. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Uh, most people, I feel like, so I think this is part of what makes quote unquote Zennials unique, um, in that uh, we sort of, and I don't think it's an official generation or anything, but there is this window of time for us in particular where uh, we straddle the analog of Xers and the digitalness of millennials.
Yeah.
Um, but we exist in a time where, because we were like 16, 17 years old back then when
Hmm.
the internet was still pretty new, And
Yeah.
we put a lot of stuff out there, right? And it was all in chat rooms, and it just, unless you saved it, unless you went through the trouble of saving these chats and stuff, it just went into the ether. It was gone.
Yeah,
There
it's
wasn't
gone.
there wasn't a record of it, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but now, especially millennials and Gen Z, are they have to deal with these social media platforms where what you put up there is could potentially stay. You know, there's a
yeah.
persistence to it that didn't exist when we first got on the internet,
For
um,
better or worse.
for better or worse. I mean, obviously, a lot of times you can delete stuff you post on
Right.
Facebook. I mean,
But then, like on Twitter and everything, there's screenshots and who
oh,
screenshotted what.
if
And
you say something or put something out there spicy enough, somebody could definitely,
yeah,
and I feel like there's less anonymity now because when
yeah,
you're on Facebook and stuff, you're typically using your real name and all that stuff, and
right.
there's definitely a real identity attached to stuff. Whereas we would all just use handles and stuff back
Yeah,
in AOL chat rooms and all that.
yeah. And we didn't really go into that yet, but my original AOL name was JS Fett
Mm-hmm.
because Boba Fett was my favorite character at the time. So I thought in my brand new hardcore Star Wars mode head, he
Yeah.
was still like my number one. But
Right.
and then yeah, what was yours again?
Uh, Jedi Savant. I was
It's
sitting there and I had to, think of a Star Wars name, and I was like, well, I know a lot about Star Wars. Savants know a lot about one thing, so came up with Jedi
right.
Savant. I still have that as like, email. I still have
Yeah,
my email account and all that stuff.
it still
Um,
holds up. Mine is a little more dated. It feels
but
like an
not
early
anymore,
AOL name.
right? Not
Not
anymore.
anymore. Yeah,
Fet's
the book
front
of
and center.
JS Fett.
Yeah.
I should
um,
use that at some point.
uh,
And then Jess was like, well, when we first met her, she was, I still never, I think I asked her about this recently and she couldn't remember, but her first one, when we first started chatting with her, was Platinu like 85 or something, or
yeah.
185.
Right. Right.
And I asked her, I was like, what was with the Platinu? Or it was supposed to be like platinum,
Yeah.
like, and she couldn't remember. And then it was only within a few days or a week that she switched to, I think it was Mara Jade 86. I
Yes.
think
Mara
that
Jade,
was
86. Yeah.
yeah, and then we had other ones too that we because I came back like a month or two later and I had Han Solo 138 because
Yeah.
I couldn't fit in or it was taken like 1138
You're
and
right.
I was like, "Oh, damn it, I'm 138." And I mean there was even other people that we brought into the chat and got to know. Like there was Lisa who
Mm-hmm.
was like Leia, Princess Leia something or other. I did reconnect with her in 99
Mm-hmm.
on AOL because either I think she still had like the same username and back then you could just use the AOL directory to like look up, a couple if you had a couple information points on
Yeah.
somebody, you could kind of find them again if you knew where to look. And
Yeah.
I did briefly reconnect with her in 99. I think we chatted maybe once or twice then and then poof, like that was it and I lost track of her. In all honesty, I would love to, talk to her again just to say, "Hey, it's been 25 years. How's life been? What are you up to?" Just
Fuck
kind
off,
of
creep.
yeah, I know, right? Um, but man, it's just so funny how it really does now feel like 25 years. I was thinking like a few years ago, like, oh, it feels like yesterday. No, not anymore. It feels like a long time ago.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
this, yeah,
It's amazing that the three of us remain friends, especially with all like just how
yeah.
much angst there was
Oh
in
my God,
the
so much.
melodrama.
So much melodrama. And I mean, there was a couple times I lost touch with Jess. Like it was about a year after we met. It was kind of like I think I remember I was like, "Hey, let's do the old chat room again."
Hmm.
It's like the 1 year anniversary because I
Hmm.
was always the one, wanting to do something on the anniversary or whatever,
Right.
which for us was always kind of like January 12th was like the sort of anniversary. And then I remember doing one like that in 98. So it had been a year. and there was some kind of blowout where me and Jess, because she and I were always butting heads,
Uh-huh.
probably because we're both Taurus,
Uh-huh.
but we were butting heads, and Jess back then was really stubborn anyway, so
Yeah.
she could hear this later and be like, "Fuck you, John." But then, and I just remember thinking, "Ah, fuck this," and then so like I cut her off. You guys still stayed in touch, and then I think even you lost track of her for a while, and then you guys reconnected, but not me. And then I think pretty much after 2004, oh 05, we pretty much stayed in touch through either MySpace or other social
Well,
media
I remember
afterwards.
on
But
one of the celebration trips, we sort of very lightly talked about maybe meeting up or whatever.
yeah, I
Um,
can't remember if it was 2 or 3. It was
yeah,
when it was Indiana
yeah,
for sure.
but
Because
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, back then it was harder. It was harder to stay in touch, man. If you wanted to
it
like
was.
disappear on the internet from other people, it was pretty easy because it was just
Yeah,
email,
yeah,
essentially.
I know.
And with the amount of times that Jess changed her screen names,
Oh yeah.
it's amazing that we did stay in touch.
Yeah,
Um,
it is unique and kind of cool because I can't imagine there's a lot of people out there that met in a AOL chat room in the mid 90s and are still friends. Like from that specific kind of meeting,
yeah, yeah,
instead of just being in the same town or from school or something. So
right.
yeah, it is a long, strange trip, man. It's who would have thought, and I do remember, like I said, going into the Star Wars Cantina chat room, and I do remember I was at Daniel's house that night, and I would go over there with John Seeley, our other friend, and we would just kind of mess around on Daniel's computer, either playing Doom or Quake.
Hmm.
And then I remember for a while Daniel didn't have a working mouse, and we were going on AOL using the tab key
Oh, that
to
sounds like
switch.
torture.
Oh my god, and you could barely see the little tab, like,
Yeah,
square,
the
like, it's
highlight.
really
Yeah,
hard to see,
right.
so we'd be, like, tapping it, and if you over tapped, you'd have to go around again, like, 30 more taps to
Hmm.
get back to where you were, and, oh my god, that was hell, but, I just remember a lot of good times hanging out with those guys, and, yeah, it was always fun just, going on AOL, messing around, checking out, Art Bell's, because you could do keyword Art Bell.
Yeah.
That would bring you to his Coast to Coast AM thing, and that was a whole other thing. He would have pictures of supposed chupacabras and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. So, yep, the old days of, AM radio and AOL and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I really wish there was a way to or to like just dig through all of that information, that data, the
I
way it
know.
was, that AOL walled garden
I
of
know, man.
the keywords and the AOL today and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's uh it's just lost.
it's
I talked
gone.
about the permanence of what people post, but really there really isn't a permanence. There's a bad permanence of like you could put a picture up, of yourself in a compromising situation, and people could, save it and repost it, and
Right.
there's no pulling it down after that. But then at the same time, there's whole communities that have been basically wiped out by a
Yeah,
service pulling the plug or
yeah.
um, data loss or whatever.
And
Um,
this was also back in the day when, even though AOL grabbed the ball and ran with it, this was still, I remember chatting with people that were emailing me from Prodigy
mhm.
and uh CompuServe, that was another one.
Yeah, CompuServe and AOL bought CompuServe. I remember that
Right,
and
right.
merged their services.
Yeah,
Um,
I still have saved emails from a couple Star Wars friends that had other, so they had their AOL buddy handle, but then their email was something else.
yeah, and that that's the whole AOL thing is our perception and our perspective of our
That time.
our that time and the the infancy of our friendship and
Yeah.
how all of that started in the special editions. But there's a lot of other things. There's like the Usenet news groups
Mm-hmm.
those BBS services and stuff. Those are
Yep.
things that I touched on later, at least with the Usenet
Yeah.
communities and stuff. But
Yeah.
there's
I started
something,
using news groups more for music stuff later. Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. It's just all different now.
Yeah. And speaking of other news groups and other boards like that, kind of a time capsule Star Wars thing from early '97 that I remember. Just as an aside here, there was different forums for like say the books and the comics and
Hmm.
everything. And I remember Anne Crispin, she was talking about writing her upcoming Han Solo trilogy. It wasn't out yet.
Mm,
And she was teasing it, talking about what it was going to be about and tying together different bits of continuity. So you had access to Star Wars authors, on their AOL accounts, and they would just chat with the fans. Just, it was so open ended. And then, there was all the rumors about things that were coming out. I remember a lot of people were excited about whatever Young Jedi Knights book was coming out that month because
hmm.
I think they were every 2 months throughout '96 and '97.
Yeah,
And I remember before Planet of Twilight came out that March, I recall a lot of people debating whether Callista was going to live or die, and everyone was thinking she was going to die because, well, why is she not in the later books set after that one, like
yeah,
the
yeah.
Corellian trilogy? And I just remember there was this whole thing like, is Luke going to end up with Callista or Mara Jade? Because this was before the Hand of Thrawn, so like people were like, what's going to happen to Mara? Like she's
Right.
not in Young Jedi Knights, so anyway, I had to mention that because it was one of those things that was only a time capsule for that moment in Star Wars fandom. Those kinds of fun little
Debates.
debates.
Yeah.
And I mean, remember the prequel stuff too that you and I heard about? Like C3PO is not going to have coverings. Like I remember first hearing that on a message board that like C3PO was going to look different in
Hmm.
episode 1, but he was going to be exposed with his wiring, and that
3PO
was the
exposed.
and it's funny that that was one of the things that actually did come through. But then I also remember in that same report, spy report, or whoever did it, might have been Super Shadow. That was one of the infamous, fake spy guys. But the same one, it was like saying Boba Fett was going to be the pilot of the Millennium Falcon, like he
Right. I
owned
remember
it
that.
before Han
I
Solo.
do remember that.
Yep, yep. And then even when the prequel names got leaked, I think because they were registered on a website, this was like early '98 or maybe mid '98. The movie had already been filmed, summer '97 or whatever, principal photography. But I remember first hearing about the names, and we didn't know who was who really, but it was like Padme, Jar Jar, and everyone's going like, "What kind of Star Wars name is that?" That's so weird. And anyway, that the prequel stuff we'll probably save for our conversation about the Jedi Council forums and the Force.net down the
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
the big takeaway from, like you mentioned, the spy reports and stuff is uh, one thing that hasn't changed is the amount of bullshit that people
yeah,
post on the internet.
yes,
Like, who
yes,
would do that? Who would just go on the internet and tell lies? Well, let me tell you,
yeah, I know.
everyone would do that.
Everyone. And you know what? The being on the AOL boards leading up to the special edition, that was the very first time that I saw and read dissenting voices in Star Wars fandom, where
Hmm.
there was people that loved Star Wars and they were hardcore fans, but they weren't loving everything. And I was so used to the kind of framed positivity of the official magazines like
Right.
Insider and Galaxy Magazine. It's just positive news. And occasionally you would get a letter in those magazines that was slightly critical. But I was so used to that. And maybe that framed my own perceptions, kind of sticking to the positive, so to speak. But I remember coming across these people that were very negative and critical overtly in some cases, and I remember thinking like, God, this sucks. Who are these people? They're not fans.
Who
What's
are
going
these
on here?
people?
And little did I realize it was the beginning of the what would just flourish over the next 25 years. And
Well, yeah,
Star Wars fandom.
Everybody's got a hater, you know.
Yeah. And now there's kind of gatekeeping generation to generation where not all the time obviously because you and I love a lot of different stuff, but I think in general the older fans kind of poo-poo the younger fans that are growing up with the sequels. And even you and I we kind of tease the people that were kids growing up with Racer as their first game and stuff
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, they wasn't like us with TIE Fighter,
Right,
like
right.
we're all looking down on, on them and everything, like as if we're like so much better. But that's just the way it is with Star Wars. You have generational fans now that they're gonna have a different view with where they started.
Yeah.
So
No, totally.
yeah, um, I think I covered about everything.
Yeah,
Anything else,
nope,
Jason?
let's wrap this up.
All right, let's wrap this up. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode. 25 years of Star Wars Special Edition memories, and that was a lot of fun. And just remember to check us out on Facebook, Star Wars Unfiltered, as well as Instagram, where we've been posting updates here and there, and of course our YouTube channel, Star Wars Unfiltered. We got lore play commentaries. Super Return of the Jedi has been dropping new episodes every Monday. We got more games coming out very soon. And of course, we'll have new episodes of the podcast probably a little more frequently than during the holidays where we kind of took a break. So, with that in mind, hope everyone enjoyed this. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
Good night.